My name is Linda Cohen, and I'm in Portland, Oregon. And I started a project called 1,000 Mitzvahs in January of 2006, and it was the month after my father died. And I really don't know what the inspiration of that was, but I decided that I wanted to do these acts of kindness, which is what a mitzvah is, in his memory. I mean, it's ended up being this amazing journey that has taught me so much, and being a mom, and now I told you I'm working on a book about it, which also kind of came out of this thing where it's like, okay, well, everybody kept saying, oh, this would be a great book, including a local rabbi, and I was like, yeah, right, but I started saying, okay, book, and so now I'm working on a book, and I think that what people will get out of the book is the takeaways, the ahas that I had that were just sort of part of my experience of doing those mitzvahs. First official mitzvah was giving a book to somebody who was going on a trip. So I gave them something that I thought I would like. Just to tell you, none of the mitzvahs, I mean, and I say this a lot, like I didn't set out to save all the children in Africa, and I didn't set out to change the whole homeless situation in the country. And you know, I never really set out to do anything on such a grandiose scale, and I am so grateful that there are people who do that, but I felt like these were going to be small things from the beginning. My son was in kindergarten and my daughter was in 3rd grade, so 6 and 9 when I started. And there's tons of great stories that have come out of this experience. I think we talked a lot. They were not that close to my father because he lived across the country. He lived in Vermont, and I'd had a rough kind of a relationship with him up until the 8 months prior to his death, when he got sick, and we really kind of sorted out what we knew we needed to sort out when there was not going to be a lot of time left. So I think that when I was doing this in those months following his death, it was a chance to tell stories about my dad and talk about what a mitzvah is, and around the dinner table just sort of sort things out. So even at 6 and 9, I would say they got it. I mean, by the time I finished, my son was now in 2nd grade himself, and my daughter was in 5th grade. So and I feel like the things I learned around that whole experience were for all of us. Probably the year after I started, so like December of 2007, I get a really, really nasty email. I remember we were in Florida visiting my in-laws. We're at their apartment, and I go into the computer to, you know, write something about a mitzvah or check my email or whatever, and I read this really nasty email, several paragraphs long, that this woman has sent me about how can I call myself. You know, it's just really nasty, really kind of mean, and oh my God, it felt awful because it was like I never set out to. You know, at this point, it wasn't anything public. It was just on the web, and I said to my husband, should I delete that comment, you know? And he said, absolutely not. You just leave that on there, and somebody else will probably address it at some point. So like maybe a month or 2 goes by, and this gal from Florida, who's a cantor, sends an email to this other gal on my blog, you know, saying Linda is doing something in honor of her father, and it's something that's helping her with the grieving process, and how dare you, da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, okay. And anyway, I ended up meeting her a couple, you know, maybe 6 months later, we were back in Florida, and I got to meet her, and because, you know, I just felt supported. I felt supported by somebody helping me get through. That was probably the toughest time, I would guess. I think that we are all here sort of looking for whatever it is that we're supposed to do. And this, I mean, I ended up leaving Arbonne about last December. I kind of officially said, you know what, I'm leaving Arbonne and I'm gonna work on this mitzvah thing. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know where I was going, but it just felt right. It really resonated with me. And you know, within 2 months, I got on the local AM Northwest channel, and I then was starting to talk about a book, and it just, my God, you know, when you're in the right place and doing what you're supposed to probably be here doing. I had this one story where I went to synagogue soon after my dad died, probably 6 months, and I always give change, tzedakah, for the little can at the synagogue, and so, you know, I do that at the grocery store for the different charities and at the drugstore. I mean, it just seems like that's so easy. You can just take the change you would just throw in your junk drawer anyway and give it to a charity. But this one day, I didn't have any change. I didn't have $1, I didn't have anything. I had a $20 bill. And I was like, okay, I've had a wonderful night's sleep. I just got an aliyah at synagogue. I took out the $20 bill and I threw it in the can. And I was just like, amazing. It felt different than change, you know, and it made me feel giddy. I was kind of like, I felt like I won the lottery that day. And but $20 can buy you, you know, a piece of clothing, lunch for two, babysitting, you know, for a Saturday night or whatever. So I kind of encourage people, if there's like that, if there's some level for you that would be like beyond what you might normally do, $5, $10, $100, throw it in. I mean, it's kind of like sending that karma out to the world. So it's like February or March, and I'm in like the high 900, like the middle 900. So I know I'm getting to the last 100 mitzvahs, and I meet somebody randomly, a woman locally who I want to tell you about, Della Ray. We meet for coffee, and she's like me, you know, this like, okay, I'm just gonna be brutally honest with you and just lay it right on the table, and we start talking, and she asked me what I'm doing to celebrate the kind of finishing this project, because obviously it's going to be finishing up in the next few months. And I said, I didn't really plan on anything. I just figured since I'd always done the mitzvahs, whatever happened each day, I'm not going to plan anything. She said, oh no, baby, you are doing something to celebrate this. This is like something you finished. So I had to think about what that would be. And my father loved food. I mean, food in our Jewish house, you know, but really my grandmother was a caterer, his mother, and just so much stuff around food. So it had to be food related, and we were in this time where people were struggling and the food banks were struggling. So I decided we should get 1,000 bags of food for the local food bank. Okay, so I don't know. You know, I know it took me 2.5 years to do 1,000 of anything. 1,000 bags of anything is not going to happen just by me, you know, putting it on Facebook to my 100 friends or whatever. So I got in touch with Margie Boulay, who's the local Oregonian. She's one of our columnists, and I think she'd written a story that I really liked, and so I emailed her and told her I was doing this project or whatever, and she said keep in touch. So when I got towards, you know, planning this event, so I emailed her, and she did a story that ran on the Sunday right before the Monday that we were going to do this food collection, and hundreds of bags showed up because people read the story and they saw where the drop-off was and they showed up. And we didn't raise 1,000 bags, but it was, you know, thousands of pounds of food, and the local New Seasons again got involved. And when people had bags that said my father's name on it, you know, it was really like, wow, Dad, you know, we really did something. And I think that was probably the one thing that kind of invited other people to be part of this celebration. I called it a mitzvah celebration, a 1,000 mitzvah celebration. I guess to not be paralyzed, to not think that you have to save the world to do anything. I mean, I'm going to tell you the funniest one that people are always like, okay, so what are the things, you know, you did as mitzvah? Change the toilet paper in the restroom. Don't leave somebody else there to, you know, especially in that vulnerable position, you know, change the toilet paper. So little acts of kindness that we can do in our life. It's like the boomerang effect. You know, you're going to feel great that you did something, and you're going to know that somewhere out there somebody else, you know, benefited. And it could be volunteering, it could be paying it forward, you know, holding the door. I mean, little things. And, you know, that's kind of where it all started for me, was these little things. It wasn't huge things. And I think that that's what I hope people will take away from it. You know, I'm a busy wife and mom, and I was working at the time, and yet, you know, she fit it in. Okay, so it took 2.5 years, but that's okay, because it wasn't on a time frame, and none of us are on a time frame, you know. Being someone who's conscious of just kind of being out there as a goodwill ambassador, so. Well, when I'm in my quiet moments and thinking about everything that's going on, he's cheering me on. He's in my dreams and in my mind, you know, and every time I get worried or not sure, I say, Dad, you know, is this the right thing? Oh, yes, you found what I wanted you know, to find. And I really feel like he's holding my hand doing this. And every time I have those little doubts, he's right to realize that that is life, and that is what happens, and that's why you have to live. Every day, doing your mitzvahs or doing your acts of kindness or being the kind of person you want to be out there in the world, you know.